Good day, everyone. We're live. Myles, it's the big day. You've put in like 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears to make the Great Indoctrination documentary. We're going to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this live premiere. The documentary is set to premiere in a half an hour on Pelican Plus. All of the information that you need is underneath. Click that, sign up for premium subscription. You'll get access to the documentary plus everything else. And it's on X. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We're on wherever else we are. And as I said, I'm Kennedy Hall. If you're on my YouTube channel, you know that. If you don't, that's my name. And I'm introduced by Myles, Ali, Murray Rundus, one of our contributors, and myself. And we're going to talk about a documentary that exposes what's really happening in public schools. And as Myles shows in the show, also in our Canadian Catholic schools that are publicly funded. And it's a shame. But more importantly, it shows us the solution, the traditional Catholic classical model of education, which is something that can give families hope that there is hope for the future. And there's lots of great stuff in there. So that's enough of me. Welcome, everybody. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Kennedy. It's great to be with you. And Murray and Ali, it's great to be joined with you here on Pelican Plus.
So let's give a little bit of a brief introduction because we only have a half an hour. Myles, in like 30 seconds, who are you and why did you do this?
Well, my name is Myles Vosylius. I am also Canadian, like Kennedy. And the reason I made this film was I was a graduate from Canada's public Catholic school system, as you just mentioned. Canada publicly funds, through taxpayer dollars, Catholic schools, and they're anything but Catholic. They are Catholic in name only, as we say up here in Canada. And when I had a very powerful conversion or reversion experience in around grade 10, maybe a bit before that, I realized that the schools are just like the worst thing somebody as a high school, being my age in high school, can be going through, having experienced a conversion, like being so in love with God at that time in my life in a public Catholic school setting where the teachers don't even know what the Eucharist is, and we're going to mass as a class. It was just so unsettling. It was so toxic. It was disappointing. It was saddening, really. And I immediately got involved with wanting to try to change things. I think that's the noble and right thing to do. And so that's how I was raised, was to, if something, if you don't agree with something, speak your mind and try to change things. And then after graduating, I thought that, yeah, I kind of set out on a journey and met Ali, met Paul List, our executive producer, and we compiled this film. And so that's essentially who I am and why I made this.
Well, I used to work in the system, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You experienced it as a student. I did as well, but I wasn't a practicing Catholic back in the day. Later, when I started teaching, I realized just how bad it was. But Ali, you have an interesting background. Navy fighter pilot. How did you find yourself in Myles's groundbreaking film?
Well, Kennedy, I'm sorry to say I'm not Canadian. I was born 30 minutes or so from the Canadian border, though, so very friendly.
Close enough.
Yes, and I'm a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan, so it's got to count for something. But I was raised in the public schools in America and was given much of the same nonsense that's going on in the Canadian public schools, and went away to a private high school and then a college, and it was just completely enmeshed in a culture of relativism, and that led me to just a loneliness and a darkness, and pursuing all the wrong things, wanting happiness but not ever achieving it. And so it was only in encountering the Catholic faith that I came in, but then I realized I was so far behind with my human formation. And then when I fast forward about 5 or 10 years, I became a father, and having experienced this Catholic faith, wanting that more than anything else for my daughters. And I put them in the local Catholic school, and I was tremendously disappointed in the Catholic education they were receiving there, because the Catholic school had become very much like the public schools. It had essentially pushed the faith and the sense of human formation in the Catholic faith to the bottom of the priorities. It was more the academics, preparation for college and for a job, for sports. All of these other things were a higher priority. And for me, I had heard the statistic that the average child decides to stay or leave the church at age 12. And so I felt the clock ticking on my children, and I did not want them to experience what they thought was the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith, but was actually an attenuated version of it, and then become inoculated against the faith. I wanted them rather to encounter the fullness of the Catholic faith, and then if they chose to leave at that point in time, they would have left the reality of what the faith was, and it's so beautiful. But I didn't know what to do until I heard about classical Catholic education, and I heard about a remarkable story of a school, and I said, that's exactly what I want. And it led me to start a school, and then that led me to Myles.
And we talked about this. Your school is one talked about in the film, correct?
That's right, Divine Mercy Academy in Pasadena, Maryland.
And you guys are doing amazing stuff there.
Yes, thanks be to God. Yeah,
yeah, you really are. And
it's the fastest growing school in the state of Maryland, if I have that correctly, right, Ali?
Yes, we've grown rather rapidly. From 19 students in 2019, we have over 150 now. So
that's amazing. I love the state of Maryland. I've had the pleasure of visiting, I don't know, 10 or 12 states, usually professional things, but sometimes for pleasure. We have friends in Maryland, and I actually absolutely love Maryland. So I don't know. That's just a little tidbit. I like that state. Okay, so Myles, I used to work in the school system that you're talking about here in Ontario. And you're exactly correct when you would talk about, I'll tell you just a quick story. I was a religion teacher. I was teaching, in the States, I found that often they call it theology class. It's the equivalent. It's just grade 9, 10, 11, 12, religious studies, whatever, but in Catholicism. And I was getting in a lot of trouble all the time. Why was I getting into trouble? Was it because I was teaching the rainbow stuff and the witchcraft and whatever else? No, it's because I was teaching not even the Roman Catechism, not even like some pre-conciliar thing. I was just teaching from the CCC, which is the basis in theory of the present curriculum, and I would stick to it. And I would answer questions honestly to the students and all these things. And I would get called to the principal's office over and over again. My boss was a good guy, but he was a bureaucrat, so eventually he caved to pressure and took me out of teaching religion, and he replaced me with a young graduate who was going to teach, and I was helping her to try to get ready to teach the course. This was for grade 12s. And I said, here's the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And she said, what is that? So it's bad.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised by that. I can very quickly relate to that with another story. I once was speaking with a Catholic teacher and that was teaching my religion class. And he said, so you mean to tell me, Myles, that those wafers that we receive at Mass, when they're baked on their factory lines in those factories, and when they're shipped out, it becomes the body of Christ?
No.
And I just was like, have you ever heard of Mass? Do you not know what happens when the priest prays over the gifts at the, like, it was just totally oblivious to the fact of what the Eucharist was. But anyways, maybe we should bring Murray in here. Murray, you have a history as well in film. You were a former Disney star, and I just find that, so fascinating. You might get sick of people saying that, but let's hear from you. Let's hear
Murray,
the film release here.
Murray, I mean, you weren't raised Catholic, so was it your education that helped you find Catholicism, or was it your re-education of yourself after your official one was done?
Well, I mean, look, I'll start out by saying this is a serious film, which is something really amazing from a Catholic point of view, because I think when it comes to looking at this from any kind of religious perspective, it's typically that our films are second rate. They have that sort of reputation. This is a serious film, which is something so excellent that we have. But, what strikes me is that this is extremely important for traditional Catholics to watch, especially people who are in this new renaissance of conservative Catholicism, hardcore traditional Catholicism, because something that's been so ingrained in this movement is having a liberal arts education. It's just been there from the beginning. You've got Wyoming Catholic College, TAC, St. Mary's College in Kansas.
Collegium.
All these different institutions have been blossoming, and yet I think sometimes we can take it for granted. And something this documentary, I think, does such a good job of showing, and why I think people should really give this a chance and really let this sink in, is why do we want a liberal arts education, and what exactly is the purpose of the church and our Catholic faith and how it relates to education? Because that's something I had the experience with when I converted to Catholicism. I just did really what I thought traditionalists did. I went to a liberal arts college. It wasn't really until afterwards that I started to realize, oh, now I'm starting to see how I'm applying this to my life. This has built me up as a traditional Catholic, and this documentary shows it. So we've got these links in the description for anybody. It's coming up here soon. If you click those links in the description, you'll be taken over. If you have our Pelican app, you can subscribe to our premium membership on the website there. This is a great film. Really, anybody who's interested in education or seeing how our Catholic faith relates to it, this is the place to go.
Murray, I think John Sr. would be happy about this film. What do you think?
Oh, definitely would be. Absolutely.
Yeah. For those who don't know, John Sr. was a trailblazer in the renaissance of the great books education in American universities, and he was a faithful Catholic man. And he was talking about the need for this a long time ago. So, Myles, I guess the question is, I have two questions. In this film, and don't give away too much because people have to click underneath and they want to go watch. And just so everybody knows, this, as Murray said, this is not like we took our phones out. Myles did not take his iPhone around and do the man on the street thing. I used to work with Myles at LifeSite News. I'm happy to call him a friend and a collaborator now as well. And this is cinematic quality, real production. And Murray knows as an ex-Hollywood guy what that looks like. So for him to say that means a lot. And but two questions, Myles. One, without giving too much away, what's one thing that shocked you and you thought to yourself, oh my, I didn't know that was that bad? And two, what was something that you saw that just gave you such great hope for a solution?
Wow, great questions. I think I have an answer to the first one. I don't know if I should say it though, because it might give away something in the film that people are about to see. So let me think. I'll answer the second one first and let the first question kind of,
linger.
Yeah, in my head a bit. So the second question, I've got to be honest with you. There's two ways I'll answer that question. The first was a fellow named Jeremy Wayne Tate. He came up with something called the classic learning test. And it's such a simple solution. It makes perfect sense. The test reflects the curriculum. So in the United States, which unfortunately, Kennedy, you and I, we don't have standardized testing to get into universities here in Canada, but in the United States, they do. The SAT and the ACT. I applied to an American college once, so I did have to take one of them. If we're forcing kids to study the curriculum to take this test to get into colleges, well, then what they're going to be studying in class is what they're studying to take on the test is going to be reflected in the curriculum in the classroom. So he says that if you change the test, you change the curriculum, and it's that simple. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is so true. I mean, that is and now look how much his test has been accepted. Gosh, I don't even know how many colleges, but it's rapidly growing. Hopefully soon it'll replace the SAT and the ACT and the College Board. So I would say that was the first thing that really inspired me to say, wow, that is a great solution. And then the second thing is the classroom, and visiting Ali's school at Divine Mercy Academy in Maryland. I saw these kids, and I remember I asked. It was funny. This isn't in the film. This is like a deleted scene or whatever. But one of the students, we were just fooling around making B-roll, and one of the students had a little teddy bear or something, and he goes up to the camera and he shows the camera the teddy bear, and I said, "Is that teddy bear Catholic?" And the kid goes, "No, we can't baptize teddy bears. They don't have rational souls." And he was in grade 4 or 3, okay? And it's like he's understanding the faith, not even just the faith, but just,
he's like a Thomist.
Yeah, like the metaphysics of that, and the whole thing would have been so complicated at that age to understand, but he does. And so that's a huge major thing that inspired me. And of course, Ali, you're clearly doing a lot of good work there at that school. So that's the answer, what inspired me. Now, I'm not sure if I should answer the first question, but maybe we can bring in Ali. Ali, I mean, you didn't know much about the Canadian system. When you were learning about the Canadian system, what was one thing that shocked you? Maybe it's fair for you to answer that before I do.
Yeah, I was shocked that the church would give so much authority to the state to dictate its curriculum, and that the bishops would give that. And I'm sure it was a complex situation at the time, and I don't want to cast stones, but the result of it was that the Catholic faith has been emptied of their schools, and which is essentially the cutting at the roots of the Catholic Church in Canada. And that's actually, I've seen that. In many places. We were in Uganda doing some work with the Ugandan bishops and their educational authorities over there last June through my work at St. John Henry Newman Institute, and they're facing similar pressure, where in their case they have so little money, and so the government says we will help fund you, but then you have to take this curriculum, and you have to teach your children this curriculum, and they say, well, we have no other choice because we have nothing, and so they take the curriculum, and then the state then says, okay, by the way, we're going to tell you which teacher is going to teach in your school, and now we're going to tell you who's going to run your school, and then before they know it, they don't have Catholics, or at least very well catechized Catholics, leaving their Catholic schools, and then their kids stop becoming Catholic, and so the future of the church dims as a result of that. And so wherever the church gives way to the state in exchange for money, it basically dooms itself and its future, and our children become subject to the state and wards of the state. So it's a scary thing to see in Canada. It's very advanced, and that was shocking for me.
If I can add one thing, adding on what Myles said there about the classical learning test, this is something that struck me in the film, that as you hinted at there, this domination of the college board over American education, where I think this is something that we hear a lot nowadays in Catholic political conversations, the idea of really putting ourselves first. You hear America first, or Canada first, or whatever it is, and speaking about how we can integrate Catholicism with that vision. Well, this is a really practical way that we can do it. And you hear in the traditional movement all the time, and conservative Catholic movement, how this is a youth movement. Well, if we're really going to want to make this a youth movement, we have to be looking to these fundamental systems of American education that determines the future for Catholics in the future. And so really that examination of the college board, its relationship to American education, so important. That's one of the greatest things that film speaks about, is that. And I hope everybody can walk away with it, with growing in a bunch of knowledge on that, because that's so crucial to really build a better future.
And Murray, where can they watch this film, and how do they do that?
Yeah, it's going to be in the description. You'll see our links there. And as we mentioned before, we have an app, but if you you're going to have to go to our website there too. We're trying to get away from big tech, right? Where we're talking about getting away from big college. We want to get away from big tech as well. The Pelican website's a way you can do that. So go to our website. We'll have links in the description there. Get a Pelican membership. You get our prayer app as well. It's the greatest thing in the world, and you get all of the rest of our content along with this film.
And despite me being on there, it's actually a pretty good platform.
That's right.
And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we do the sign up through the internet is there's a little thing with Apple and Android. When you pay through an app, we have to give them like 40% of the money that funds the platform.
Wow.
But if you do it through a browser, we don't. So it's just a quick thing in your Chrome or whatever browser, and then it goes over and you log in. It's fine. Okay, Myles. In the film, you do talk about education and indoctrination, hence the name, The Great Indoctrination. Now, these words their meanings have changed over the centuries. Like propaganda is actually a good word historically. La propaganda fide is the propagating of the faith of the church. But when we hear propaganda now, we think of like Che Guevara t-shirts and communists and things. Right. But maybe, what do you think is the difference between indoctrination and a true education? And how does that sort of play out in the film?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember there was one fellow, I'm not going to mention who it was, Catholic fellow. He told me he didn't like the name of the film, and I can handle criticism. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, indoctrination isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way in which doctrine is imparted to the individual. And I thought, fascinating. But of course, in the secular sense, indoctrination. And you can use indoctrination, and people, it's generally referred to as a bad thing. But So I found that interesting. But I would say a true education is the goal. What is the goal of your education? Is it to get a good job, or is it to pursue the truth? And is it to pursue truth, beauty, and goodness, as we portray in the film? And I would say that that's the difference between an indoctrination and a true education. If you're simply studying to get a good job, well, you're not really studying anything. It's utility. It's just you're gaining skills so that you can get a good job. It's a factory model education, as we also say in the film. It's an industrial education. It's study this subject, take this test so that you can get into this school and then get a good job and do that for the rest of your life. But that's not really education. Education has never been that way. You know, the greatest thinkers in the world never saw education that way. So why do we see it now? You know, and where did that come from, and why are we accepting it? That's something that this film talks about and brings to light.
Kennedy,
Well,
can I
one of
touch on that?
yeah, sorry, LD, go on. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So when we think about education from the church's perspective, what we're really talking about is human formation, or is how are we forming the person to become the best version of themselves? And when we say that, we mean propel them toward heaven, right? That is the purpose of education, and the education is the passing on of the best of one culture, or the best from one generation of a culture to the next, the best of the culture from parents to their children. Whatever we think is the most important, we want to pass it on to them, and we want to form them. And the education we're talking about here has its roots in the classical Greeks, and the Greeks were very interested in knowing what is the best way to live? Like, what is human flourishing? What are the why am I here? And what ought I do with my time here? And so we begin with that, and then we marry it up with Jesus Christ in the incarnation and the Jewish faith, and we bring it all together. And instead of just trying to become a superior man, a politician, or a political leader, the goal is actually to become prepared for heaven, right? And to prepare our lives for heaven. And so a true education, I would say, is the formation for heaven. Whereas indoctrination, I would say, is a preparation for something less than that, right? It is I am going to form you in a way that prepares you for not toward heaven, but rather toward what I want you to do. And what I want you to do, what the state wants our children to do, is to become workers, cogs in their economy, right? To produce for the state and in service to the state, where the state replaces God as the end.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I really love how you mentioned the Greek tradition. We homeschool our children. We would send them to a good school. We just don't have access to one that's close enough to our house, and it is what it is. But we homeschool our kids, and my wife is really passionate about it. And the methods and the people that we follow, the various educational thinkers, they're always going back to the quadrivium, you know, like the basics of like knowing the things about the world, about the arithmetic, about music, about art, all these different things. And you know, I'm learning with my kids. You know, they're doing these science lessons, and it's, you know, in some book from 150 years ago, and I'm like, I know more about how candles and oxygen and everything work than I remember at all from my high school science classes, because it's fully human. It's fully human. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 minutes until this is going to premiere, but it's not going to go away. This is the premiere, but if you sign up, you can watch the film as many times as you want, as long as you're signed up at Pelican Plus. And as a reminder, click underneath, sign up for the premium membership. And Murray, I'm going to say a couple things here, and then you fill in what I forget, because I will
Kennedy,
forget.
can I say one more
Yeah.
thing, if I can, really quick?
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, of course, to Pelican for hosting this pre-show and the after-show, and for hosting the film. It's really great that we were able to bring this film onto the platform. But there's two other people I need to thank. One who isn't on this platform, but I'm sure he's watching live right now. His name is Paul List. He was the executive producer to this film. He did so much in investing in the film and investing in the vision of the film. And I'm just really thankful to him, of course, as well to Ali, who did a lot in bringing a lot of connections, different professors and people that we interview in the film, his school that is showcased. I just really wanted to give a big thank you to both Paul List, to Ali Ghaffari, and of course to Pelican. I just wanted to say that while I have the chance.
Well, thank you, and we're thankful you do, Miles. And the way that people can show that they're thankful is by signing up, because Miles did not become an independent filmmaker about education as like a 23. Are you 23 now, Miles? 23. Did
23.
I got it right. As a young man, to become a millionaire. So these things cost money.
That's true.
Independent filmmaking is like, you know, it's like when you say you want to open a restaurant and your parents roll their eyes
Yeah,
and you go, yeah, don't you know
exactly.
9 out of 10 don't make it? But Myles did it. He made this beautiful film. So we were happy to bring this on because this is part of what we do at Pelican. We want Catholic families to have a place to go where they can actually use technology to help form their souls, their children's souls, and even be entertained, but in a way that is not against the formation. And Myles has really helped us for that. So click underneath to sign up for that if you're interested. And if you do, there's so many other things on there. Myles' documentary is there. It's the first of many sort of film cinematic undertakings that we're going to be having with Myles' help and others. But there's also podcasts, tons of articles on church news, theology. There's a robust prayer app, so you don't have to use that other big one that sometimes has some funny stuff on it, and it's amazing. So, anything else we should add, Marie, before we sign off here in a minute?
No, I just think it's important for everybody to realize our religion is the religion of science. It's the religion of knowledge, right? We're the ones that started the universities. We're the ones that you can find. The logos is at the root of our religion, and that's mentioned in the film. So people can go over there if you use the code SCHOOL, just as in the word school, you can get 5% off. And you get as Kennedy mentioned, you get everything else in the app. It's an amazing app. You get our all of that amazing stuff over there, and you get to see this great film. So yeah, we hope to see you over there.
All right. Before we go, anything you'd like to say, Ali and Myles? Maybe something they should look forward to in the film as they're about to watch it.
Yeah, I hope that when someone's watching this, their eyes are open to the battle. This is where the culture war is occurring. This is the front line of that battle, and that's something I just discovered, when I started the school. But I want you to realize that this is where it's at, and our children are the ones in the front lines, and so we need to get involved.
Perfect. Myles, anything else?
I'm just no. I think everyone has said enough, and I look forward to hopefully to joining you guys afterward and discussing more.
All right. Well, I'm going to watch the film simultaneously as helping put some babies to bed. I've already had the pleasure of already seeing it, of course. And so I'm going to be back. So we'll see you all back here in about an hour and 20 minutes. And there's 2 minutes before the hour, so you still have time to go sign up. Click the link underneath, use the code SCHOOL, and have access to this and so much more, and way more to come in the future, God willing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in a little while.
Thank you.